Good morning and welcome to the Capital Gang. I am Oscar Semoyam Soke, and as Moses Kalule of the morning show would say, with a bevy of topics for discussion. In the studio, we have Miss Coffee herself, Jacqueline Arinda. She has another name now, but you're most welcome to Capital Gang once again. We have missed you.
Thank you, Oscar.
Yes. And then from the NUP, we have Mr. Benjamin Katana. You're most welcome to Gang once again, Benjamin.
Thank you very much, Oscar. It's a great pleasure. Good morning to you and all our listeners.
Yes, and then we have a new guest. Our new guest, you're most welcome to Gang, Mr. Isaac Kayonde.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You know your name is easy to confuse with Kayondo.
Absolutely.
So I guess one day you say Kayonde, the next day you say Kayonde, whatever suits you.
I say Kayonde always.
You say Kayonde always.
Yes.
Okay. You're most welcome to the Capital Gang.
Thank you, Oscar. I'm humbled to be here.
Yes.
And I hope to enjoy the show.
We hope so as well. So, Jacqueline, you're in the hot seat. Really, and you've sat on the NRM side, so it's a good sign. But you're seated in front of those chairs. I'd reserved it for Isaac, but you can have it.
Are you sure? Because at this point, I don't think
Am I
I have NRM's interests.
I had reserved it, but Isaac can perform from where he is. So, you know, Jacqueline, this UCDA, the Coffee Authority, has caught fire. And the president has written 3 letters in succession in a week. And apart from him saying that these are parasites and so on, because in some ways he created those agencies, it sounds reasonable to close UCDA and take it back to the ministry. Wouldn't you agree?
No, I wouldn't.
Why wouldn't you?
I wouldn't, because Oscar, I must say that the president has made us think that rationalization is not about what they stated out. One was based on performance, which had to do with how much money is the agency, because UCDA was supposed to market the product. So if we look at the figures of how much money is being made, even what is exported from 3 million to 6 million is not a joke. Number 2, they said, oh, you know what? Regulation. It seems they are not doing their part. But so far we see that the farmers are happy. In fact, apart from the president and the few people, I have not heard anyone else jump on this. Apart from even the few that are defending it, they are defending it because they have to defend their job. Otherwise, the president will summon you and ask you, what are you talking about? So they defend it, but when we are with them over coffee and having our coffee in our cafes, they are like, man, I had to just say that. So if rationalization is about reducing the expenses of the government, help me understand this, Oscar, and maybe the listeners. Uganda so far has about 3 or 5 units of anti-corruption. We have anti-corruption unit, we have State House anti-corruption, we have even the IGG, we have the Auditor General. All of them, if you look at all of them, what are they supposed to do? To fight corruption. Why is it that he never said, let me scrap off anti-corruption and come out with State House anti-corruption? Why didn't he say, let me scrap off maybe the IGG's role? But he just keeps on adding. And as we speak, we even have, is it URA State House something? So far, you cannot say that this rationalization is about reducing government expenditure. And he says EDs and what? Now, if you look at even leave alone corruption, we have Uganda Export Promotion Board. But on top of Uganda Export, I don't know the last time I had Uganda Export Promotion Board in events in Uganda. I see them, but I see more of Basay, the presidential advisor on export, is doing more work than Uganda Export Promotion Board. Now, on whose budget is that? I'm very sure Basay is also under taxpayers. Uganda Export Promotion Board is under taxpayers. So it's not about UCDA. Because from UCDA's point of view, they feel that they have worked. And to NRM, I still vote you. Even after 30 years, there are some things you have not corrected. But we still vote you. 38, imagine. We still vote you in power. But we did not say, let's vote Katana's boss. No, we know that there are some areas where you have failed, but we know you can improve. So UCDA equally has areas where they can improve. And the president usually uses proverbs. I will ask Katana or Agatha to at least help you.
Most welcome, Agatha. Try it now.
You see, the president usually uses proverbs. And in Ankole, they say, Oburingwa bwenyanja tokupimisa amagulu abiri. Katana, you can, I think, translate for them.
Then if you want to measure the depth of the lake, you don't put in both legs at a go.
You can't.
Because you may end up not getting the results because you may drown.
You may drown.
Yes.
Then he goes on to use, the Bible. Now, when you go to the Bible, they say there is time for everything. I think it is in Ecclesiastes something. There is time for everything. UCDA should have been given time.
It has had a lot of time.
Which time? But it has also performed. Let me give you an example, actually, about coffee. Coffee is not like matoke, where you think you will get it from your plantation, then you wash it and you maybe you smash it and you serve. No. Coffee goes through various steps. Even for export, it is value addition. I don't know who told the president that value addition is just after roasting the green bean. The farmers are still struggling. He said, Chiboko, the farmers are still struggling, and UCDA has been helping them. Even when you look at the data that the president is giving us, he said 1 million seedlings for 38,666 acres. Now, 1 acre of Robusta needs 445 trees. 445. 1 acre of Arabica needs 660 trees. Now, explain to me how 38,000 acres had 1 million seedlings. It's impossible. So if the president is using that data, it means we have not informed our president. That is why you see Uganda, I think, Bureau of Statistics, when they give us wrong statistics, they think it's a joke, because that is what they are feeding the president to make such decisions. I even still think that after seeing what the president is basing on for rationalization of the UCD, he doesn't have the right information. The people around him are not giving him the right information.
So, Jacqueline, let's go back a little bit, because your argument is if others are still open, UCDA should be open. What is the advantage of keeping UCDA? You people in the coffee industry, why are you agitating for UCDA? Only a little while ago, we were saying UCDA made a mistake by leaving the world. Yes. And now here we are, farmers saying, no, UCDA is doing well.
Yes, but when your father is a drunkard, does that mean that you disown him?
We didn't father him.
You would say he pays my school fees. You work on rehabilitation. You don't just disown him. So the reason why I say UCDA should stay is that, like I was telling you, coffee has many players. And the sector needs to be regulated. Now, let me give you an example, and I think Honorable Frank will not be happy with it. In 2019, we were informed that this EU regulation would become tough. In 2019, we started having meetings. UCDA started inviting all the players, including the stakeholders. Maif used to send a representative. We would invite the minister. When I say we, I don't want to speak for UCDA. UCDA would invite the minister. The minister would send a what? A representative. We started those meetings. I can't even count how many times we've met. In August this year, the minister and the PS were furious that they were not informed about EUDR, that we have a deadline of 31st December this year. or else we are about to lose 70% of the coffee market. Now, I asked myself, if a minister has been sending a representative at a commissioner level back to report, and he didn't, let's assume he didn't or he did, then you're furious because you know you have 2 months to the deadline that you were not informed. Now imagine a department head, I don't know, even a department head, if he has the same way with the minister, he will never meet the minister to brief him. So making UCDA as a department, it means that the minister will not have time to listen to such issues. By the time he gets to know about them, it's late. For example, right now was not the time for us to discuss rationalization. We have 2 months. 2 months. But you can
get
imagine,
everyone registered.
Yes, to have our farmers registered, to not even only registration, to know who is who, traceability, who is doing what is Oscar doing. But you can imagine they are fronting rationalization. No one, including the president's letter, I have not seen him say, by the way, can we put this on aside and focus on how to ensure we beat the deadline? That is when you realize that their intentions are not going to benefit us. UCDA as a department will not. Let me give you another example, which all of us have failed to understand as Africa. Oscar, you cannot send your PA to have a discussion with the minister. It cannot. It cannot. That discussion, it will be, come back tomorrow with Oscar. You making UCDA have a department means even on an international level, there are some discussions they will not hold. And that is coffee for you. Coffee is the most traded product in the world. And you're saying that UCDA can regulate one, the transporters, the farmers, even value addition. Now, lastly, they are saying it will remain doing what it has been doing. Explain to me how the tractors they have been giving, the seedlings they have been giving, UCD has been giving even coffee machines, espresso, what and what. If they are reducing the budget and they are saying they are going to remain doing that, and it's not only salaries, how are they going to do it in the department?
Good. Let's go to Isaac here, but first welcome Honorable Lydia Wanyoto Mutende. Most welcome to Gang. Very smart this morning.
Oh, I'm blushing.
Very smart.
Good morning, Oscar, and to my colleagues in the gang, and thank you for appreciating my dress today.
Today is Mother's Union or something like
No,
that.
today we are going to honor Honorable Dr. Ruth Nankabirwa Sentamu Seguja.
In the church.
She's been made a canon. And she has a Thanksgiving at her home. So after here, I'm going for the Thanksgiving. And I had to honor her occasion by dressing in a Mothers Union Gomesi because I'm a member of the Mothers Union.
Wow.
Okay. So Isaac Kayonde, what Jackie says is reasonable. The other areas not closed, notwithstanding, UCDA is useful, and many people will argue it may have its ups and downs, there may be gaps, but the idea that it's costly to run UCDA doesn't really stand.
Well, thank you very much, Oscar. Am I allowed to make my maiden speech for the show? Yeah, it's my maiden speech. I'm really glad to be here. I've listened to this show since I was a teenager, and I always thought, maybe if I make it, I'll make it to the gang. Honorable Wanyoto may not remember, but she used to be my literature teacher.
Where?
I'm glad to be here.
Kibuli.
At Kibuli,
Yeah.
yes.
Wow.
Mr. Fono Pondo.
Yeah, today is your day.
It's really, Agatha, I've met her on other platforms. I've listened, followed on Twitter. So I'm really glad to be here.
Sometimes I have both of them, and there's another one called Namfuka. It is real trouble with me when I have the three of them.
Namfuka is on maternity leave. Oh. She has a bouncing, handsome young man called Mwendo.
Wow, that's good. Yeah. So, going back to the topic, I listened to the debate in Parliament about this rationalization. And they have cherry-picked the organization UCDA, right? And everybody has focused there. But this rationalization, to take you back...
Perhaps because they agree with other agencies for rationalization and not UCDA.
Yeah, give or take. But you see, you can't necessarily talk about rationalization without talking the context in which it was brought. The history to this rationalization started in 2017. The president, in that Chisanja Hakuna Mchezo, you know, he started out very early writing letters. And one of the letters he wrote was, we need to merge these agencies back into the ministries. And that process started. They wrote a letter to Parliament, and Solomon Serwanyi and company were tasked as a committee to look into rationalization. 7 years down the road, nothing had happened. But, you know, eventually, I don't know whether it is the timing was right, rationalization was brought on the floor. The first time, I think, out of the 40, only 4 were merged. You know, I mean, 4 were approved. Then the president jumped in, called the caucus, told them, look, every organization should go back. There was a lot of claims around corruption, agencies are bribing MPs not to merge, and all those things. But going back to the debate of UCDA, it was interesting to watch. One side, the opposition, brought emotional arguments to the table. The government simply stated why it needed to do this, right? The arguments, I mean, I listened to Geoffrey Lutaya, who has been praised by the new president for having contributed well. His argument, what was it? We grew up on coffee.
That's a good argument.
No, it's not a good. It's not. UCDA didn't exist when they were growing up. You know, it wasn't. Coffee marketing board. Yeah, it's okay. Whichever way you want to look at it, Coffee Marketing Board was marketing coffee. Ministry of Agriculture was the one in charge of growing and promotion down there. Now, the aspect that, okay, yes, you grew up on coffee, yes, we understand. What was the act saying? People did not argue what the act was saying. They were arguing, we grew up with the coffee, you want to impoverish us. Of course, the tribal sentiments came in, and the whole debate was lost. Totally. But the fact that UCDA was among the other numerous organizations that are to be merged, UNRWA, DDA, NFA, all of them, government has simply stated we are streamlining, because the same arguments they were making, that government is bloated. You see? Now government is doing something about it, and all of a sudden they are starting to cherry pick. So you have a program, and you look at it and say, okay, government says we are going to save R1 trillion every annually. Once we do this, you know, it makes logic. Now, we go back into the functions of UCDA. What have they been doing, right? UCDA's functions in vis-a-vis the farmer. The farmers are saying UCDA gives us seedlings. So does OWC, so does NADS, right? Is that a specialized thing that it can't go back to the ministry? When you look at the act, the amendment, I think I should read it for avoidance of doubt, right? So that we don't speculate.
Well, the amendment says abolish UCDA.
Abolish UCDA. All functions, all functions, without exception. That means licensing, promotion, you know, the growing, whatever it is. Whether there are seminars involved, all functions should go back to the ministry. I waited to hear, just like Jacqueline has been elaborating here, to hear the why not. The first time, it's the first time I'm hearing the argument about the EU and everything, right? But we didn't even hear that on the floor when they were opposing it, right? So for me, the president said, okay, farmers are happy, prices have gone up. Does UCDA control prices? No.
Honorable Ulumebaiga asking about the time it will take to get accreditation.
Yes. Now, let me explain that. Yeah. the issue was you had people like Abed Bwanika, who, in my opinion, when he came to the floor, was a bit of the voice of reason. But right now, he's not the most popular man, right? He came and said, okay, let's do this time-phased thing, allow Ministry of Agriculture to set up and, give it some time to
but by the way, that was the agreement, that 3 years. I don't know why the closure has happened before the 3 years.
3 years is not in the bill.
It's not in the bill.
Yes.
It's not in the bill.
But that's
a gentleman's agreement, and a gentleman's agreement in this country.
Yeah, but
especially with the person we are dealing
with. Let me just make my point. My point is this, that you see, you couldn't even have the voice of reason in that house when the debate came, right? Because emotions had now gone so,
No. Yeah. We Isaac, we've discussed what happened in the house.
Okay.
Right now we are discussing the usefulness of UCDA.
The usefulness.
Yes.
So, what UCDA is doing wrong currently, that Maif is going to correct, or Maif is also taking what
Maif is
wrong.
What? The Ministry
of Agriculture.
Ministry of Agriculture.
Yes. Let me explain. The issue wasn't about the issue wasn't really about what is going wrong. The issue is rationalizing. Okay. Let us streamline ourselves. Let's be a little more efficient as a government. UCDA, if anything, is still a government organization. It's not a private thing.
What did you base on to select these agencies? That is what I want to know, that UCDA qualified to be on the list.
Jackie, Isaac makes a good point, that the idea for rationalization was to save money.
Yes.
But people are telling you that with UCDA you're not saving any money, because
no, it's not
you are
only
not spending
UCDA.
on it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's not only UCDA. UNRWA, for example. People are looking at it, and UNRWA has been performing and everything.
Will Isaac answer Jackie's question?
Yes, and I want
other PASID, investor protection unit, whatever.
Yes, I want to get into it. I really want to get into it. The thing is, we have reached a point of saying that because we are doing, because Jack is doing something bad, I should also be able to do it and get away with it. Rationalization is first acting on the technical aspects of government. You get? Now, you're talking about RDCs, ministers, and all that. That's political. I mean, if I appoint a minister, I have appointed...
Talk about why you have anti-corruption, about 5.
Agreed.
5 of them. Anti-corruption unit, State House, and State House investor.
I'm going to pause one. Let's pause Isaac. Go to Isaac here.
To Benjamin.
To Benjamin. So pause Isaac and go to Benjamin. Yes. You've heard from Isaac. He says this is a general theme of rationalization. Jacqueline tells you, but don't rationalize with UCDA because it was doing well. What's your say, Benjamin?
Thank you very much, Oscar. The starting point is that as the National Unity Platform, we have been making a case for a lean and efficient government.
Absolutely.
Rationalization ideally wouldn't be a bad idea if the objective is to cut the cost of running business so that money is invested in areas that matter most. The challenge with this debate is the dishonesty with which the government, and my brother here from the NRM, I believe, has been talking about cherry picking. I think if the person who has ever deployed cherry picking is Museveni. Because if you are making a case for cutting the cost of running a government business, and he has been talking about parasites, his office and person combined are the biggest parasite in terms of wasting taxpayers' money. That is the starting point. So you have created a political structure that is taking a lot of money from the citizens, and you're saying that now we are going to merge these institutions as a way of cutting costs. Does it make sense for you to, and why UCDA has generated a lot of debate, I believe, is because of the importance that we attach to coffee, not just as a country. I think of all the agencies that are being discussed, none is as vital to the livelihoods of people as coffee is, because it is a source of livelihood. It is where people get money to educate their children. What he was calling emotional, it is a question of perspective. But there are all the reasons for coffee to be an emotional subject, because that is where a majority of our people derive sustenance, that from where they get money to take their children to school. And it has the challenge is that this has been presented as a Uganda issue. Where I come from in Bushenyi, it is a big coffee producing district. Most of the educated people you see in Kampala from Bushenyi went to school because of coffee.
Masaka or Uganda contributes more than 50%. Bushenyi is not even in top 10.
Yes, but my point.
But they have.
No.
And Mbale has a.
My point.
The point is.
My point is that coffee affects everyone. So it's not. There are sections that are trying to. And if you are talking about
who have tribalized this debate?
It is the speaker who has tribalized it, because he is the only person that talked about
I mean,
tribal sentiments in Parliament.
The other day was in
yeah, but I think that is besides the point.
Yeah.
When you look at so there are many factors in this debate. The other aspect is the casual manner in which the NRM government has played with people's livelihoods. That today you say you create UCDA, and the intention is to make sure that now you have a streamlined, specialized agency that is going to run this sector of the economy. Years down the road, you say now this is a bad idea. We go back to the ministry. You have UCB, you say it's a very wrong idea for government to run a bank. Years down the road, you are talking about starting a citizens-owned bank. So we cannot continue gambling people's livelihoods. It doesn't inspire confidence.
When the president says these parasitic agencies, these parasitic,
but he has explained. I mean, some of these things
doesn't inspire confidence in the citizens. The other aspect is the challenges of UCDA in terms of inability to perform its duties well are not unique challenges. They are challenges of almost every agency of government in Uganda. And ministries are worse. When you look at the MAIF, the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, mouthful as it is, point out any department that is running effectively, that is inspiring the government, that now, if we run away from the incompetence and the parasitic conduct of UCDA, we are going to have this run well, like fisheries. You know the challenges in the fisheries sector. You know the challenges for us who come from farming communities. Our people have had challenges with pesticides, have had challenges with fertilizers, have had challenges with and Museveni is a big cattle keeper, or he claims. But he has even failed, his government has failed to address the question of ticks and associated diseases. Under the Ministry of Agriculture, I see Frank always posting pictures of cows, but as a minister, his ministry has failed to deliver on that aspect. So these people that have excelled in demonstrating incompetence as a ministry now want the people of Uganda to trust them with coffee. I think those are some of the aspects that are raising a lot of suspicion that this idea, much as it may be presented as a magic bullet to cutting costs of running government, is not going to deliver the intended benefits. Because if you look, for example, at the ministry, these agencies may be wasting, and indeed it doesn't make sense to find that you have people just doing paper pushing in an agency like UNRWA, earning 30 million doing procurement, then the person doing procurement in the ministry is earning 3 million. It doesn't make sense. But even in the ministry, there's a lot of wastage. There is a lot of wastage that does not require changing the law to address. That does not require government to change the law to address. So if you have failed to address these challenges of wastage, why do you send a country again on a polarizing debate to change a law that will actually not be able to deliver the efficiency and cost cutting that you are talking about? Because even in ministries where you do not require a law to cut costs, there is already wastage. So I think it is very problematic for anybody to think that this debate can focus just on the text. Because people are saying nobody is talking about the provisions of the law. No.
That is the convenience.
The context of the debate is not restricted. If you want to understand the context, you cannot just look at the text as presented in the bill, because it is being debated bearing in mind the spirit, bearing in mind the political economy, and the impact of the product that we are tinkering with. Okay. Today, I have mentioned that I come from a farming community. There is a problem of tea. People are even uprooting tea plants because the prices have dropped. They have not received sufficient support from government in terms of sourcing fertilizers, in terms of marketing. The prices have gone down. But instead of government addresses these specific challenges that are affecting the farmers on a daily, it is rushing to go to parliament to introduce a law to do something that they will not even be able to do because the government is tired.
Just for a point of view from
hold on, Isaac. Let's first go around. Yeah. I have Agatha here, then Lydia, and then we can come back to you. Agatha, Moses says, first a correction to Jacqueline. Says, Oscar, in 1 acre of Robusta coffee, you plant 450 coffee seedlings. That you got it wrong. 450, he says. Is that what you said?
Yes, 440.
440. He says 450, so it doesn't, not much difference.
The difference is not.
Then he says on traceability, I hope you recall Mengo opposed it. Now it has to be done by UCDA, and the Katikiro has been issuing tweets defending UCDA, which is supposed to carry out the traceability he opposed. What goes round comes round. Yes, Mengo opposed traceability.
No, the Katikiro didn't oppose it.
No, he opposed the traceability. He opposed the Mengo opposed the registration. Yes, but for different reasons.
He opposed the licensing, which had been talked about, that they would license farmers. Okay. That he opposed, but he was very specific about the registration. And he talked about, it's okay to know who the coffee farmers are.
Yes. Okay. Thanks for the correction. Okay, so that's a correction to you, Moses.
Yeah.
I'm going to start by pointing Isaac where to find the arguments the MPs made for retaining UCDA. There are 3 reports of the committee members: a majority report and 2 minority reports. Even the majority report of the NRM members makes a case for what UCDA has done right. It only differs at the conclusion, which is a very big contradiction. They make a case of the pivotal role UCDA has played. They make a case of how it has helped farmers improve their qualities for the benefit of the biggest market, the European market, which is a 65% market for coffee. They make a case for how UCDA has increased coffee output. Is it output? Yes, in terms of bags, from this much, I can read it for you here, to this much currently, about 80.
8.5.
She's here, she can tell us, but I can read it. They also make a case saying that the committee observed that there's no duplication whatsoever. There's no role that is being played by UCDA that is played by MAIF or any other agency for that matter.
Absolutely.
So those are there in that majority report of the NRM members.
Yes.
They are there in the 2 minority reports that were read. Now, if you want people to write all that, they have put in time and said this, but on the floor, people will say, and you say the eyes have it even when it's not true. People are not going to not be emotional. So that's understandable, that we had already written and explained that this is the role UCDA is playing for farmers, and there is no harm it is doing, because when we go back to you and your president's excuse of cutting costs, we will go back to what is the budget of UCDA?
20 million.
How is it financed? It is financed by coffee itself. It is not money that we get, because you have agencies that have no revenue. So where money for financing them just comes from the treasury. Here you have that cess that even is over and above what UCDA needs to be facilitated. You have these other agencies, I found, Jackie, counting them, that you have not yet looked at, because for your whatever interests you are having in that's what makes this suspect. You have not looked at Investors Protection Unit. You have not looked at the State House Anti-Corruption Unit. You have not looked at the URA that you formed yesterday. On the one hand, you want to say that you are rationalizing to cut costs. On the other, you are forming others and putting there your kin and kills and friends and son-in-law. No, but it's not funny, by the way. No, it's not. You cannot take people for fools like that. You have perceived and you know that perceived. Let me first. What do you mean? No, it's even illegal already. What is it going to be merged with? It's an illegal outfit. What is it's illegal? It's illegal branding. So you have perceived that came in for Simanya adding value, export, whatever. Where you have Export Promotions Board, where you have Uganda Investment Authority, where you have UCDA, where you have all those. They are there, but you have created another, and you come today and you take us for fools and say, no, we are trying to cut costs. That's one. Two, I'm going to tell you, maybe, I don't know if you guys discussed this last Saturday. So this rationalization already happened. You know, we have a way of, we don't see any other waste. We just see waste where we want to kill people's whatever. Now, this rationalization happened, I think, early this year. Do you know that it did? Do you know that these bills, they have just brought them back? When it was happening, there were two groups. President Museveni, who had said in Changwaza and wherever, and said, UCDA, UNRA, NITAU, stay over my dead body. They have to go. You have MPs. There were reports even in papers like The Observer and I think Monitor, saying people in those agencies paid bribes to MPs, to the Speaker. And because of that...
It is an allegation.
It's an allegation. No. It even went up to... It's an allegation that went up to Cabinet. Because the Speaker, after that, came back and quarreled in Parliament and said, you ministers in Cabinet, you're rumour-mongering. Exactly. Abused them for rumour-mongering. Yes. But what am I saying? That we are wasting both time, resources in terms of both time and money, going back because you have two interests fighting back. So NITAU had stayed, UCDA had stayed, UNRA had stayed, against the presidents. Now they brought them back. You have MPs, instead of legislating over other issues affecting Ugandans, they will go back to legislate where either that time they didn't see the need for rationalization, but now they claim to see it, or like the allegation goes, they were bribed to. And no one talks about that we are having to go back and spend time and money on an exercise that we did, I think, in February. It must have been February or March. And it's okay. So there's nothing. If there's anything that doesn't make sense, is your side of let's remove UCDA. The other side of UCDA should stay, has made these reasons for why they are agitating, like Oscar called it, very clear for a long time in documents. Now, when you come and say, I am rationalizing, and you are a president, you're saying I'm rationalizing, because we spend 7 trillion shillings in costs of administration. 7 trillion shillings. Last time I checked, it could be more now. So we will only accept that you're doing this in good faith if you come and say that, you know what, we have 7 anti-corruption. They are like 10, by the way, because if you add IGG, PPDA, DPP, and all these other illegal ones, and the anti-corruption court, so we can say that we have 10 anti-corruption agencies, but we are still losing 10 trillion shillings to corruption. So that means either they are not doing what they are supposed to do, or they are actually duplicating work. Let's cut them, so that instead of spending almost the same money we want to save in anti-corruption on these agencies that you make every day, let's start from there. The anti-corruption agencies, none of them brings in any revenue. UCDA is bringing its own revenue that sustains it, facilitates it, and there's also balance. You understand? So for us, nothing else makes sense. It doesn't.
So just finally from you, like I said, makes us suspect. What did you mean when you said that?
No, I mean makes this suspect that you are saying this is the reason. We are suspecting this reason you're giving because of all the reasons we've put forward that, these are legitimate concerns of the farmers. This is what UCDA has done. This is how it has improved. There's no disadvantage whatsoever for the remaining of UCDA. There are advantages that have been shown, demonstrated. So when you insist on it to the point of issuing 5 letters, we are wondering, so for you, what's in it for you? Why must it go? Like, why is it a matter of life and death for you?
It is.
Lydia, answer Agatha. Why is it a matter of life and death for UCDA to go? But, I mean, you kind of answered it. Lydia answered it last week, said, well, if the one who created it wants it to go, it can go. But is UCDA useful for your community, for example? You come from a very strong coffee farming community.
I come from Bugisu, but I'd also like to invite all our listeners to refresh with today's new vision. The Ministry of the Ministry of Agriculture, the PS has written and listed comprehensively about coffee and which district in Uganda is growing coffee. Maybe that should be able to give people information if you trust figures, because people these don't trust figures coming from government
figures,
agencies. So,
that list
because also you
among the top even 20. But the biggest investment is in Intungam.
Yeah.
So it is questioning.
So anyway,
go on, Lydia.
But as we're getting money,
Lydia, you're on microphone.
But anyway, I have said on this show before, and for any doubts is this decision was already taken by SEC and NRM caucus, so I cannot reopen debate. I just want to be fair. What we agreed as SEC is that we supported the debates that you are all having were raised strongly by members of the NRM party. I want to be fair to them, and that's why they are take home. In politics, you can have your say. I want to let you know, but the majority have their way. So I know members of the NRM who stood very firm on many of the issues you've been raising. Moreover, in the middle of SEC or in the caucus. And their takeaway from there, actually, was the 3 years you are hearing about. Because they raised these things and they were saying, okay, the decision has been taken. This is a government policy. The executive has powers to evolve policy. And they took note of what members were raising. That's why you've heard about the buy-in of the 3 years. The 3 years will take on UCDA and NITA Uganda for transition, for the justification of what many members of parliament said in SEC and also in the caucus. So what I want you to, now that you have asked me, Oscar, what I want our listeners to know is that I think there is a good case for a wake-up call to the Ministry of Agriculture. The bashing has been up there. No wonder the PS today has taken off time to make a double page. I don't know whether it's a supplement but they are trying to come. Yes. So for me, even what I want to hear also is the UCDA staff to come out.
Can I?
To come out, not to talk against the decision of government, but to come out and build confidence to say, yes, now that we're not going to be thrown out, we are reorganizing government. We stand to do this and this and that, and would want to be helped to maintain or even improve in the line of what people are saying. So I thought that I cannot continue to beating this anymore. But you have a right to talk. You have a right to raise issues. For me, I take notes because achieving the 3-year extension was not a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It was not. But we got it. So, for me, I would want to hear, because if people have had their say, and you're not the minority, but when there's going to be a vote, definitely government will win. I'm not speaking out of arrogancy. No, I'm speaking out of it is the reality.
Yeah. Can I ask her?
So the best that we can do out of the situation is to ensure, like we've done. Actually, I wish you could call Frank Tumwebaze here.
He's out of the country. I'd invite him.
He has to come and commit, because the Ministry of Agriculture has been put up there. It's naked. They have to come and commit that coffee will only rise to the expectations of the people. Why is this so? Because I think coffee, I'm even surprised that this time even people without our cattle keepers, they are busy with the milk. They've all come on M1. So everybody is speaking coffee. So this is a national issue. So we want to make sure that we do not lose because of a government institution.
Excellent.
So, and this touches the last person in, I think this one crop that goes to the household of the last man in the village. I'm happy with the list in the New Vision today, because Bukoma and Simbi, let me conclude this is very important. Bukoma and Simbi tops the country in terms of how much they grow coffee, in terms of bags. There is Masaka. So when we talk about the voices out there, the louder the voices, those are the people whose issues are being pinched. I want to support that. If you hear people like Uganda speaking out with a louder voices, with more emotion, it's not because they are tribal.
No.
It's because this thing is on their doorstep. They can't breathe. So we should listen to them and be able to take what they are saying. I come from a coffee growing community, but one of the best brands of coffee, Arabica coffee, is grown in Bugisu. I come from Mombali. I grew and went to school on the price of the sale of coffee. The vehicle that took me to Gayaza High School.
Isaac doesn't like that argument.
The vehicle that took me to the car that used to take me to Gayaza High School. The car that took me to Gayaza High School every time I was going back to school was because members of my family were working, and we used to be children were being transported using those vehicles of Bugisu Cooperative Union, BCU. So you don't think that I left Mbale Fair Primary School to Gayaza High School without coffee support. So I want to let you know that we want to hear this talk about coffee. We shouldn't remove the pedal, but government has taken the decision to reorganize the institution.
We don't agree with that decision.
Finally, people have a right to have their say, but the government has the final decision. That is my humble opinion.
This government,
the executive of the country. It is. You can define that.
Because now it is when
you can define that.
You say the NRM, part of NRM, they agreed that UCDA should stay partly.
They made an argument.
They made an argument,
and they won part of the arguments. Most of these things actually negotiations. They made a big case. There was an extension of 3 years to deliver what people were raising.
However.
There is no however.
Lydia, the Simon in Kampala says the position of agencies is clear.
You see,
and it has been provided in the committee reports. Yeah. How do you explain one day saying you can't merge these agencies and then come back another day say, no, we are sorry, we did not. Now we know merging is a good thing. Okay, but
government policy evolves.
Government
policy evolves.
I want us to.
We woke up one day and we had coffee marketing boards. Today we have UCDA.
I want
even the sector is more liberalized than ever before.
Lydia,
the people that have said, the people that have said that UCDA should not be merged or taken back to the ministry have been heard. Exactly. But government has had its say.
I want to move.
Me, I'm a realist.
I
do not want to come here and join you to lament. The most I can is to make the best out of the situation.
Listen to what I'm putting to you, Lydia, and the people on the panel. UCDA, as Lydia says, if they want it to go, it will go.
It has gone.
It has gone.
It's now a formality.
let's look at coffee. Since we have Agora here, they've looked at coffee, and we have Jackie, who is in the coffee industry, and we have a hub in Ntungamo. So how will that work? So will the Ministry of Agriculture collect coffee and send to Ntungamo for value addition? How do you envisage?
There was a
that
clip of somebody who said all the coffee.
Isaac wants to start with.
No, Isaac, first hold on.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I need to give a background
By the way,
about
let my
the
question
coffee.
be taken over
Live
by
in
events.
Ntungamo.
Yeah.
About coffee. Let me inform you, Isaac, that coffee is not like banana that you're going to play with. This is the second most traded commodity. And there is a reason to why you have top 10 exporters being foreigners.
Yeah.
And that is why NRM is failing to understand. It is not coffee for the poor when it comes to export. You must have cash. You must have the money.
But Jackie,
it is, hold on, Oscar. It is traded in dollars. So if this government is making us poorer and thinking that they are going to have
how is it
Ugandans-
making you poorer?
Because first of all, coffee, the reason actually when we get to how they have fought us is because in the coffee sector, from the farmer to the transporter to the roaster to every person, they've been earning money. And the only person that wasn't getting good money apart from sales was government. And parasites, government official parasites who want to just control the sector. That is why they are taking it to Ntungamo and saying all of us should send coffee to Ntungamo. But I was still explaining to you that the reason why, Oscar, I believe that the government has failed to understand how coffee is traded is that they think that you making UCDA merge with, actually they've said it's already gone, is going to improve your international kind of trade. No, it's not going to. It's not going to. Why? Because for a container, Oscar, you cannot afford to export a container. That's why we have foreigners here. They pay your farmers. Even Jadakof, as much as I pay farmers and any other Ugandan that pays farmers, we cannot afford to export that coffee apart from foreigners. Why? Because we are poor.
So is that a good thing that they have
the government should first
the hub in Ntungamo can do that?
It cannot, and that let me even inform the general public, and there are facts here. I can show them to you, Oscar. The reason why every country exports green bean is because coffee, when it comes to ground coffee, its shelf life is not like that of instant coffee. They are saying they are going to do instant coffee, but they do not understand that the distribution lines in the developed countries are not the same here. You have Jacqueline Alinda struggling to buy a flat iron in her home, and then you assume that I'll buy a coffee machine of about 1 million for me just to drink coffee in my house. The Ntungamo factory, my sister here can tell you, was reading us the figures here. Where is Ntungamo among the top producing?
I had this discussion with Moses Piranga in
They
a
are not
week.
there.
Germany does not grow any coffee either, or Italy that takes a lot of our coffee.
That is true.
But he says, if the question is to send coffee to Ntungamo, isn't it nearer than sending it to Italy?
Let me ask you. Germany is the biggest roaster. Listen to this. Germany is the biggest roaster. You are aware of that? They are the biggest roasters. And because they are in a market where it's consumption, people were saying even Brazil, because Germany, when it produces coffee, it's consumption. They consume it from there. Even when it is exporting, Germany exports green bean. It does not export processed coffee. Your question for Ntungamo.
Yeah, Jackie, the big question for all of us is the maybe unfairness that the Ntungamo people got money that we didn't get, public money. But I still haven't understood why it is not possible to send coffee to Ntungamo.
The reason is logistically.
Because if you've been sending
let me
it
give you logistically.
to Italy, then you
actually,
can
let me
send
give it to you logistically.
The point she makes is that once you roast from here, that what they are trying to do in Ntungamo, it reduces the quality that the consumers in the other markets are looking for. And it's not the product is not going to be consumed here, but exported. I think that's...
For instant, and even for instant, to make it clear, it's because the country itself, Brazil, consumes 22 million bags of coffee. Now, I wanted to inform you about Ntungamo.
Okay, first,
logistically.
Pause. We go for a break. No, we're going to go for a break, and then we'll have you, Isaac, who's burning too, and then Aga. Be brave.
No, but here is where
welcome back to the Capital Gang. In the break, we're still discussing rationalization, but I don't want us to go back to rationalization, Jackie. So let's let's go to Ntungamo.
I was saying, logistically, the numbers here, my sister has provided them in New Vision. You have Masaka producing 1 million, and Uganda 3 million. How does a business person like me load my container? Yes, from Mbale, from Masaka, all the way. And for your information on that particular note, even when the president was going there, his vehicle could not get to the plant. He had to hike. Now, with my DMC vehicle, because that is what we use. The truck. All the way to Ntungamo. Then they process it. They have not even told us about the fees. I'm very sure they will determine the fees. And then I have to bring it back to Kampala. Who's going to pay that cost? Because for your information, here in Kampala, when we get our green bin, after collection, we have collection centers. We bring it to Kampala. But because, like I've told you, most coffee is produced in here. Mbale is closer. So if I have to take to Ntungamo, it means I'm going to incur the cost. Number 2, Ntungamo is producing instant coffee and ground coffee. Currently, for your information, I saw us exporting to Serbia roasted beans. I laughed. I said that is why I'm telling you that Oscar and the listeners, as long as we do not perform based on data, correct data, we are going to go wrong. You cannot have roasted beans exported and you think it is going to stay the same. It's like me packing roasted maize and I bring it here and I will think that I have added value and I'm going to sell it to you. But the taste is different. So Ntungamo is
some people want to even roast their own. They buy unroasted and they roast before
that is it.
Brewing.
That is the green bean. Yeah. You buy the green bean and someone wants to roast. Still about Ntungamo. I can assure you that in Ntungamo, we are not sure if it is going to do what it is supposed to do. Me speaking, I was in the Old Testament. I didn't reach the promised land. So I know what I'm talking about. So I am not sure that in Ntungamo, what it is saying today is what it will do. Why?
Benjamin, we have accused Jacqueline of being annoyed because she didn't touch the money.
They've told me I speak because I didn't eat.
She didn't touch to Gume money.
Yeah, but as long as she's giving us facts, it doesn't matter what the motivation is. Yeah. For as long as she's saying.
So, and I go to
Ntungamo, for it to exist, it needs farmers. And I can assure you, on a moral ground, there is no one who wants to work with Tugumi. We are just being forced by the president. From the OBs to the village mates to the who, no one wants to work with him. So imagine a farmer. We shall
use facts, not morality.
No, I am telling you that a farmer is not going to have their coffee. And lastly, Oscar, ask for me, NRM, what is going to happen to us who have contracts of 3-4 years? To supply Italy, France, USA. Is NRM going to compensate us when we have breach of contract?
In fact, it's a big question.
I'm asking that if they say we have to send our coffee to Ntungamo, and I had a contract with Agatha. You don't know.
Let's go to Isaac. Okay. You're on microphone now, Isaac.
Yes, Agatha addressed me personally. Jackie has addressed me personally, and you moved away from you wanted to move away from rationalization, but I really honestly think we can't get into business gymnastics of coffee like she does. People have strategies in their business and projections and everything. We are not looking at that. We are looking at the coffee sector for the whole nation, right? But I want to address and I want to give comfort to Jackie here. And listening to Agatha. Agatha has elaborated.
And in addition, there's someone here on Twitter, on X, formerly Twitter, tells Lydia this government has fought coffee from the start. So people say these things. Says BCU here in Bali had the ability to export coffee, but the government took it away. Yeah. And there's penalty somewhere. They do. And Museveni has said he is penalty. That's what.
Let me give instant response. Bugisu Cooperative Union has a license and they export coffee, and they have a board. It is up and running.
Yes. Okay, back to Isaac.
So one of the things that she was highlighting, nobody doubts whether UCDA has been useful to the country. That's no doubt. What the president in his letters highlighted, that you see the growth of coffee has had different factors that have pushed the production from where it was to today at 9 million as it claims. The statistics show less than that, but give or take. For me, the thing is, what functions is UCDA playing that cannot be played in the ministry?
Can you tell us about Ntungamo?
I'll get to Ntungamo later. That what functions are going to the ministry that cannot be performed. And I've had the privilege of talking to my contemporary. We went to school together. He's the MD of Chagalani, Mr. Jeremy Mpalampa. And, he's a very, hardworking and very knowledgeable guy who is heading the largest exporter of coffee. I asked him, how is this thing going to affect you?
I think, Isaac, you made a good point for you, and no one is going to change your opinion that UCDA can close and functions go to the ministry.
Yeah.
Now the discussion has moved on to the coffee sector.
Oh, yes.
So, and maybe some of here's Agatha had talked about.
Yeah.
But is there a motion, is there an argument for sending coffee to Ntungamo Hub?
Yes.
For value addition? That's the question I'm putting to you directly.
Yes. And just to answer that is misinformation.
It's not misinformation. Let me. I was in front of the president, and he can tell you we were there. We were among the consortium.
Let me explain.
They will send the coffee there. Let me bring it, Oscar, for your information. In the contract with Pineti, it was also stated that government was ready to ensure that all of us supply Pineti, and he's the only.
Do you have a government contract saying that our coffee will go to Ntungamo?
Don't you have a contract with Pineti saying so?
That is different. And the contract with Pineti, listen, it didn't happen. You get, it didn't succeed. And for various reasons. My thing is this, you have asked a direct question. We are in a liberalized coffee economy, right? There are different players. The majority of our coffee is exported. We are a low coffee consuming country, right? This business of Ntungamo that is going to happen, the president is simply saying, and the context in which he's saying, is that we now have a value addition. We have a value addition factory. Please, he appeals to coffee farmers to sell their coffee to Ntungamo. But there is no law. It's not government policy. It is not in policy.
It's the same as 3 years.
Let me give information. It's going to be government policy, and it's government policy that you not export non-value additional product.
Yes.
Now the issue is, for you to add the value, you must look for that facility. And that facility, one of them is the one in Ntungamo.
Not so one of them, it's the only one. Not only
I think that's very clear.
And the president is now the spokesperson of the one in Ntungamo.
So you cannot be saying they are going to persuade.
No, it
you will find yourself, if you want to export, you must have your.
You must go to Ntungamo.
It's a policy.
Let me. Look, for me again. It's and I would challenge.
Unless we want to have a campaign that let every maybe zone like if you want to say Bukoma, Simbi of Masaka, or even Bugisu, we can also have those that infrastructure or progressively that can now add value.
Okay.
Because we are not going to export.
I want
products that do not have value added.
I want,
and we need to have that.
I want to address this in this way. We have Jada Coffee. She's here. She's selling Jada Coffee. It's a finished ground. It's also you have added value in whichever way, right? Are you being compelled or forced to choose where you roast your coffee? Or it's part of your business strategy?
Like I said, I cannot export ground coffee. I have to export instant. So if I'm to export instant, I have to go to Ntungamo.
What I'm saying is this. In your business model and in the network of the coffee, right? Is there anyone, is UCDA, for example, helping you come up with that strategy?
Yes. For you to receive a license for roasters, UCDA has to.
Agreed. Licenses have been said that, oh yes, UCDA will always do that, right? My point
they
I'm trying
manage
to make
even quality.
here is that the wish that we export our coffee, value added, is what the president has always sung about. But nobody is going to be forced to take their coffee to Ntungamo.
I should say, Isaac, you're being recorded when you say this. Because Lydia has guided.
Lydia has guided.
Yes.
But again, like I said, Pinetti, there was a draft thing that did its rounds. Did it happen? No. So really, proposals are not cast in stone.
Benjamin on microphone now. Coffee in general and Ntungamo. So Jackie and Lydia are whispering here. So will you send coffee to Ntungamo? Because as Jackie says, it's the processing plant that we only have. And Lydia says, soon you will not be able to export anything that is not value added. And Jackie says value added means instant.
Yeah, and
export for export.
The context is what is actually very challenging. One is that while Ntungamo is being presented as a private entity, it has been financed with taxpayers' money, which is even more problematic. If it was for public, we would have the confidence that our money is going something that we own. But now our money is going something that is owned privately. The technical challenge is addressed by Jackie notwithstanding. Secondly, there have been similar. For example, where I come from, in Oshenyi, there is a plant that was established to add value to Matoke. To date, the farmers in Oshenyi have not benefited anything from that plant. The other day in Teso, people were complaining about the Tuju juice plant, where a lot of money was spent, but nothing. So for me, what is more concerning is even not the direction to send coffee to Ntungamo, but more concerning is that Ntungamo is one of those other projects where taxpayers' money, which we don't have because we are a struggling economy, is being spent on something that is not likely to benefit the country. The second aspect is the patronage element involved in how this facility gets taxpayers' money. That and people have ably talked about PASID, which is owned by or led by a son-in-law to the president, and that so that you have everything revolving around family members and friends. There is no transparent process that leads to the correct creation and funding of that project, and therefore the suspicion that there is likely to be a directive that has come through a process that is not transparent to send all the coffee to Ntungamo is also well founded, because if Ntungamo has got free money without going through a transparent process, there is nothing to give people comfort that it will not get directives which will give it an advantage but a disadvantage to the coffee growers and the traders along the chain value. Directives that will only benefit the individual and maybe those that he represents. Because I remember when there was a debate about Pinetti's argument that is being talked about here, Museveni saying I'm Pinetti. Now, even the suspicion about, scrapping of UCDA and people who have voiced their concerns that now this is another channel through which government wants to take over coffee, individuals want to take over coffee. These fears are well founded, and Ntungamo comes into into play because of the manner in which it has received the state funding, because of the manner in which it is being now promoted. Because if you have a head of state that is talking about a project as its marketing officer, then the traders in the sector have well-founded fears that it is likely to take over, to get a monopoly over other traders and just benefit a few individuals
Katana
as opposed.
That is the man that was trusted with the promoting consumption. That report is still at the Auditor General, and they have never addressed it, and they entrusted the same man to do this.
So you can see that the fear is well founded, and there is context, and generally the crisis of confidence that the population has in government and these shadowy investors that it keeps promoting. And it's not the first time we have had Kananathan, we have had several, even some local investors, we have had several of that nature. So that this has led to the conclusion that the people who make decisions to spend this money are beneficiaries in one way or the other, but they disguise and come through Katana or another person, say this is an investor, but when the money is going back to the individual that has made the decision.
Paul says one of the biggest fallacies in this coffee valuation addition is the conflation of value chains and supply chains. Okay, and continues and concludes, value in coffee isn't created in a factory, it's created on the farm. Ask yourself why Uganda Arabica costs 4 to 6 times less than Kenyan, although Kenyan coffee many times is just Ugandan branded as Kenyan. And then Gerald asks you, Agatha, what is UCDA's advice on Tungamo roasted coffee to Sabia? I don't know that they had no advice on that one. But yes, in terms of the coffee industry, what's your take with all these developments?
Okay, so before I answer your question, Oscar, I'm going to first ask Isaac's role in NRM, because we need to know. It's not there. Thank you. Now, if it's not there, why is Isaac challenging the words of a member of the NRM SEC? But also, there is an NRM chairman, LC5 in Ntungamo. There's a video here. We can even play it that said, I repeat, there's no coffee that will go anywhere apart from this. No. But you say you are the one who is overzealous.
No,
because
I've
those
said,
two
look,
have
I can challenge the one who has said it's policy to tell me where they have written it and said that all coffee will go to Ntungamo. The president wrote that we need to have value addition, right? We need to have value addition, and we are going to support value addition. If they have started with the man in Ntungamo, it doesn't mean that, you know what, it's going to be now everybody.
But if you are dealing with the president who has become a state, his wishes are law.
So that was my second point. My second point, please, your time ended. So my second point was, and as you ask the coffee sector, Lydia here said it's already done. It's already done. But we know that it's not. Do you understand? Do you remember how we are talking about the Pineti MOU? Parliament. But did it fail? That's the question we are asking you, because you don't know. The Committee of Parliament made recommendations in that report and said, can you address us on this and this and that? The executive never came back. And we have never been told that, you know what, we have torn it, we are going to do away with it. In fact, the suspicion is that this UCDA, the obsession with UCDA and doing away with it is to still execute that MOU, which in a way of we were forcing people who to sell, because that's what they're telling you right now.
That's your suspicion, right?
No, but you see, the problem is for you. Like I've told you, if people who are in NRM, who have positions there, and the president, Jack is talking about a letter, are saying everyone is required to sell to that factory. For you, when you say no, how do we take your
There's ways in which we can verify that.
Okay. Isaac, hold on, you respond
yes.
But let me say this. They are not going to say, okay, the chairman said, but even if they don't say Isaac, if the policy of the country is that you will not export products that are not
green bean,
that are not value added, and the only infrastructure in the country or in East Africa is at a location X. Isn't that common sense for you?
No.
So the proposal should be that actually before this policy is entrenched, we should have a transitional arrangement so that so that infrastructure is developed and grown to areas so that they can leverage advantage. I mean, I would be very happy,
my sister,
to see an infrastructure that adds the value. For example, in Uganda, in Elgon,
where the
it
coffee
won't
is.
help you because the
Let me finish my thought on coffee reading. So when you have people like Lydia say that it's already done, we know that Parliament said let's go clause by clause and everyone votes yes. But Lydia here said government has the final say, regardless of people's views. I was laughing at how that coincided with the cartoon by Spire that is on Twitter here saying, someone saying, asking the president, but the majority do not want coffee, and the president is saying, who is the majority? Do you know what majority means? This is in a cartoon. And the person says, I guess it means big numbers. And the president said, I am the majority in that cartoon. And it's really what it is. And that's not a tragedy of just coffee. It's a tragedy of a government that does not care about people's views, about people that are affected. Lastly, I told you I had a question for Lydia about 3 years.
For me?
Yes. Lydia kept saying we pushed for 3 years, and it's a big thing. Eventually we achieved. Let me finish. Lydia.
I have on your microphone on, so it's okay.
So that 3 years, like I've told you, like you all know, is not anywhere in the bill. And that was the basis of Olulu Mebaiga's question in all that. The biggest question was, if you are saying you will enforce this after 3 years, then leave the bill, bring it back after 3 years. Because that meant it's not even there. It was just something said so that they just pass it. And that people are saying, we will need time to get accreditation. People will lose time and market and whatever when you go through these bureaucracies. But those 3 years later, the president said, and me, I am talking from knowing the meetings that happened. The meeting happens, the president calls the chairman of the Uganda caucus and says, why are you disturbing my endeavors? That is very true. He even has said it himself on record, the one they called Mutuju. So in these meetings, he says after they refused, even the 3 years I had given you, I have withdrawn the 3 years because he's the majority. That Oscar is the future of coffee in this country, but is the future of everything else in this country. There is a person who said, Professor Loko Nyango in 2013 was invited to speak about the oil curse. I said, guys, there is nothing like the oil curse in this country. What we suffer from as a country is a governance curse. Because we will have a Matoke curse. Benjamin was talking about the banana initiative. I need to cross-check and see how much money we sank in it, something that has never benefited anyone. Someone who was growing tea sent me a message here and said, this is how they killed tea. You know, when they said, I'm going to read that message verbatim for you guys that he sent. And you know, these people have already talked about how tea was actually. He said, our Uganda Tea Growers Corporation functions were taken back to Maif. A tea desk was created in the ministry, but all that was promised by government in the repeal bill was achieved. The tea sector is crying, and the same will happen to coffee. And people have been saying that, giving you examples. Vanilla died. Sugar canes died. Cotton died. Because you are insisting on things that are not working for farmers. Why do you still insist? If it is not working for farmers, and that means it's not working for this country. It's not working for the economy. So who benefits from killing these things? From getting money? I heard them talk about Ntungam, and I asked this question on Twitter the other day. You are insisting that you are rationalizing because you want to cut costs. But you're getting 173 billion shillings and channeling it to someone else. It's not Maif. You are not taking it to Ministry of Agriculture, the one you're advocating for to take up these functions of UCDA. You're not channeling it to UCDA. You are creating different entities. And people are saying that, the factory in Ntungam is a private. It can't be private when we have already put in 173 billion shillings. 37 billion having passed. And I saw some of the defenders of Rwabogo saying, no, it didn't go to PASID, it went to Inspire Africa. But it is Rwabogo in the budget of 2023-2024 that went and defended it before Parliament, the 37 billion. Before a year had even lapsed, after 37 had created a lot of commotion in Parliament, Cabinet approved that the same people are added $36 million. You know? So for me, I do not understand. There's nothing that makes sense in what you people say and what the president said. When Lydia talks about NRM MPs and how they agree, but she already had told us how they fought in the caucus. So the agreement, you reach that agreement by duress. Because if people in the entire report, this is the last point actually, if people in the entire report, like I was telling you, these same NRM MPs are saying there's no duplication that is happening because of the existence of UCDA. UCDA has improved this and this, has distributed this many numbers of seedlings to these many people, which has in turn improved the output of coffee, but in the end say that no, we agree with it being closed. Is that agreeing? In what way?
Moses Byarahanga tells you, Benjamin, that on ticks, the Ministry of Agriculture, through one of its agencies called NARO, has developed an anti-tick vaccine. The lead scientist is Dr. Fred Kabi. The vaccine has already undergone clinical trials and it has been proved successful. Currently, a factory to manufacture the vaccine is under construction. And of course, he gives figures to show that Italy is the biggest exporter of coffee, yet it doesn't grow any. We stop for a break, and after the break, we'll go to Lydia. We'll come back from that very short break. Lydia closed this coffee discussion. Agatha makes solid points, and I like the way you are answering and not answering on these coffee things on gang. But
I am telling them the reality on the ground, and all of them, and it is good for them to appreciate where I'm coming from. Policy is evolved by the executive. It should be consultative, I agree. I like the fire that has caught the policy on rationalization of the UCDA. We've taken note, we've heard, but the executive decided that the functions of UCDA will stay, but the institution will be merged with the ministry. I listened to Jackie, I've listened to everybody. Please appreciate that you have a government in place. And that when in governance, there is the majority. You cannot convince a governance principle that the minority overshadow the majority. Although you should be heard, and a hearing, you've really made your case. I have benefited a lot personally because I come from a coffee growing area from the issues being raised. We had big issues with UCDA as people from Bogiso because of issues of fertilizers, extension workers, dryers. It has not been the way we wanted it to be. But for me, I think that this campaign is a wake-up call to the sector ministry, but also to the agencies that oversee this very important sector that has touched people's hearts. Jackie has talked about coffee being an international crop and export crop. I agree. But for Ugandan context, the Wananchi have not even just an economic attachment. Many communities in Uganda have an emotional and cultural attachment to the crop coffee. In many areas, when you go to make a relation, to bond in many cultural settings, you have a coffee bean exchange. So it's bigger than the economic story around it. And I hope I'm speaking people who understand where I'm coming from. In my community, to bond when you visit is we give you a coffee bean. Then that's a family bond and it's cultural. So I'm not just saying this because I'm looking at the international market. It's bigger than international market. And I think that we hear you. the ministry, I wish I was the Minister of Agriculture. I would really make sure that all your doubting voices are put to rest by standing out and delivering bigger than what UCDA has been doing. Because
and
coffee speaks to every household.
Abdul reminds Moses that Narrow has same status as UCDA.
Yes.
So when you're quoting the other. But anyway, Benjamin, over to you. You're the
and
NUP
to I was asked a question about the 3 years. I think it cannot be in the bill because it's administrative. This administrative. Please, you trust the government that is elected. I don't want to overbeat that point, but I do not see how you're going to be forcing an establishment. You can only negotiate, and we hear you.
Agatha said,
and we hear you because Agatha is talking. Why don't you put the 3 years in the bill? That's administrative. Not everything goes into law. She
summarized it well. She said she knows the majority. And the majority is one person.
Okay, you can say the majority is President Museveni. Maybe, yes, in saying because he's the head of the majority. Yeah. So,
Benjamin,
he has powers.
18.
Yeah, he's the head of the majority.
18 people
until January 2026, Museveni is the head of the majority.
And I don't know, since we have people now that pleaded guilty and sentenced another, is it 2 months or something? Now we have 18 that are still missing. So, what?
Yeah, thank you, Oscar. In the period leading to the 2021 elections, very many young people, especially supporters of the National Unity Platform, as it emerged later, and candidate Kyagulanyi then, were arrested or abducted. And especially after the November riots of 2020. Subsequently, following demands both from the public and even on the floor of Parliament, the government produced a list of people who had been arrested by the different groups that were operating. And in the words of Museveni, some were arrested by commandos he brought from Somalia, from the theater of war. Others were arrested by other groups. But what is... the
way you say these things with such confidence.
Yeah, he mentioned.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And others, when... the then Minister of Internal Affairs, General J.J. Odong, also appeared on the floor of Parliament and gave a list. So these 18 people were part of a big group that government then acknowledged as having been arrested. Now, subsequently, some people were released, also in a very funny way, outside the established framework of the law. People were held in Communicado for 6 months, for 5 months, and then they would be dropped at night. Others were dropped in Mengo, others were dropped in Mabira, others were dropped in Meta sugar plantation around Ulgazi, and different others in Mpiji. And I think you are seeing these stories on various media channels. Now, these 18 were never produced in court. They were never released. Other than appearing on the lists that the government produced and the testimonies from people who were arrested with them. I can give an example of one Kanata Muhammad who was picked from Mukono, in Mukono North. He was arrested with other people, taken in the same drone in the middle of the night. After a long time, some of them were released, but he was never released. All those people, except one, called Chibarama John Bosco, because Chibarama was arrested earlier. And but for him, even the family, nobody has a clue of what happened to him, because the car was found somewhere near that place called Kumbuzi on Gayaza Road.
Kanyanya.
Yes. But subsequently, the Prime Minister on TV mentioned that Chebarama had been arrested for being involved in subversive activities. And said, yes, the government had him. So subsequently, these people went to different police stations even before they came to NUP, their families. And there was no trace of these people. So they lodged a complaint with Uganda Human Rights Commission. Uganda Human Rights Commission released a report later and said the families had not provided sufficient evidence to show that these people have ever existed.
Oh, ever existed?
Ever existed.
But there's a list with photographs.
Yes, the families were not satisfied. They went to court, and just the other day, court also dismissed their case on the basis that they had not provided sufficient evidence that they were in the custody of the state. Of course, among the issues raised for trial was that the responsibility of the state, that if citizens have gone missing, people have reported to police and all the appropriate officers, even if there is no evidence that the person who came with a gun and a drone and took away someone, that the state has a responsibility and therefore should have come out at least to explain, say we have looked for these people in these areas, but we are yet to find them. So that is one category of the people, the 18. Now, these ones who were convicted, who pleaded guilty, also is a group. Initially, they were 32 in number. They were arrested in the period leading to the swearing in of this term of office. They were held incommunicado for over a month, eventually presented before the General Court Martial without representation. Of course, they had not had the chance to communicate with their families, and they have been on remand for close to 4 years now. There have been bail applications to have them released on bail, but only 4 of the 32 were granted bail. So subsequently, they were approached. They were approached by first lawyers of the army, whom they call defense counsel in the General Court Martial, and they offered that. So when it came to our attention, we said, but even if people want to do plea bargaining, where someone agrees with the prosecution that I'm tired of being in jail, I'm ready to take this. Yeah. So, but that one was ignored. So eventually, there were political actors, the Minister for Children Affairs, a presidential advisor. They approached them, and they made deals, of course, outside the the framework of the law. And
we kind of discussed it last week.
Yes, some people pleaded guilty. Of course, what the common thread in all this is the persecution of political opponents, because the sucking into the partisan politics of the members of the armed forces. Because the arrests were conducted by members of the armed forces, I have mentioned that some people were praised, that the commandos from the theater of war in Somalia, who are well trained in urban blah blah blah, conducted these arrests. And so that sacking, because it's not new. When you read the preamble of the Constitution of Uganda, it talks about the checkered history, which involves abductions and enforced disappearances, like we are witnessing now, that happened during the days of Idi Amin, and several other years, where members of the opposition were treated as enemies of the state, and it continues to haunt us. The party and the families of these missing, for example, I see you are warning me about time, have taken a position to appeal against the decision in the Court of Appeal, but there are also plans to file a complaint for enforced disappearances with the appropriate UN agency that deals with cases of enforced disappearances. Justice sometimes takes a long time to be achieved, but we have no choice but to continue pursuing it.
Okay. Agatha, Benjamin says, interesting. I had not realized that Human Rights Commission said there's no evidence that these people existed, but there's a list with photographs.
Do you know the things that Human Rights Commission has said? It even said that it first said that those people had gone abroad for change.
Yes.
That they had gone abroad. Their families brought their passports and asked, how did they go abroad when their passports are here?
Yeah.
Then it says there's no evidence that they have ever existed. Now, these are people with wives.
They have put this on paper, they've written it down, that these people never existed.
These things are in the news. So when people would go there to petition, Wangadia would the first time say they have never existed, second time say they went abroad for greener pastures, for Cheyo. And their families came and said, but these are their passports. How did they go abroad? Now, when you say they have never existed, they have wives, they have children. We did a documentary recently, a very short documentary at Agora about that we called the tears of wives and mothers. Therefore, these missing people. There was a woman saying, I go home every night and my children, the wife of Chibarama, are asking me, where did our father go? If they died, let us have the bodies and bury them and know, so that closure is there. The walkout in Parliament that happened under the leadership of Mpuga must have been October last year or September, was about that. These 18 people are missing, and in that session, Right Honorable Robin Anabanja said, we have Chibarama, and people are saying it is okay to have these people if they committed any crimes. Can we know where they are? Can you know what crimes they committed?
Can you present them to court?
Because so many, these are the lawyers, so many applications of habeas corpus have been made. Produce these people. They have not. It goes back to the rationalization we're talking about, by the way. It touches on it. When you have a president who only sees things like UCDA to be rationalized, we have security agencies. Like 10. So you go, and the police says, we don't have this person. CMI says, we don't have this person. ISO says, we don't have this person. And under there are so many. There's SIU Chireka, there's DCI, Directorate of Criminal, whatever. Now, in that chaos, people just disappear. Police will say, we can't account for the person. UPDF will say, we can't account for the person. CMI, DCI, SIU, whatever, all that. Now, all these people... let me finish this of after Nabanja says we have Chibarama. There is a meeting that the speaker convenes last year between security ministers and internal affairs and the opposition, some of the opposition members, to sort of resolve this impasse. Now, in that meeting, which was off the record, but I got to know, the Minister for Security, Honorable Jim Mwezi, when the MPs from the opposition say, but if the Prime Minister says that you guys have Chibarama, can you guys show us where Chibarama is? And Jim Mwezi says, the Prime Minister is not the minister in charge of security, but the Prime Minister is the head of these ministers, right? But
security is sensitive.
And no. And I would like to ask that we expunge this from the record. What does that mean? But the record is already there, because we have Nabanja in that documentary. We have her voice and on video saying we have Chibarama. So even if you expunge it from the Hansard, it's there. It's on the internet. It was already captured. It's in the news. Now, you hear what they have told the lawyers, that even the court is saying something like they have not produced any evidence to show that the government has them. So who should we ask for these people who have just disappeared? Why can't we have a government that investigates the disappearance of people? But also, what is another suspicious thing is that the people that are disappearing are your opponents. Are the supporters of National Unity Platform, the same party whose other supporters have been in jail for 4 years until they are forced to implicate themselves. If there were NRM getting missing, we would say there's a general insecurity problem in the country and people are disappearing. But these are clearly enforced disappearances by the state.
Isaac, right on microphone.
Well, I don't want to.
I have Patrick here who's asked a question. Does Isaac speak for government? Does he speak for
no?
So
No,
I want to tell
I am a member of the NRM,
he's a member of NRM,
and I'm
yes.
duty bound to defend and support my party, right? I'll also like to disagree with the second member here. The president has lost a lot of battles. He lost the one of land. He lost the one of Busoga, the zoning, sugar, and to this date they are suffering with poverty because of that plantation crop. He lost those battles, and certainly, if indeed it is a policy that we take all our coffee to Ntungamo, he will lose that battle. That's for sure. Anyway, no, not in that context. I'm saying,
I want to be very clear. You know, because we come here and people misquote us. I have said government is evolving policy, and we're all buying into it, that Uganda's future should export value-added products, exports.
Exactly.
Coffee is just one of them. We have been campaigning, we are building industrialization. It's a policy that we are going to provide employment. To grow the economy, we must do value addition. Now, for coffee, it cannot be an exception that we are going to export coffee that has no value addition. Therefore, we must build infrastructure that adds value to coffee. For now, the infrastructure that everybody knows about is the infrastructure that is in Ntungamo being built by a private entrepreneur. So speak in that context. My campaign is that we should have infrastructure before the policy is enforced.
But that was Isaac's opinion.
Yeah, it was my
opinion.
No, I said what I can do. Okay. this is. I feel.
His opinion is that people will not send coffee to Ntungamo.
Okay. Yeah. So.
But now missing persons.
The missing persons. I think for me, I don't want to play around with people who are looking for their loved ones, and there are valid reasons. However, in as much as we demand accountability from government for all individuals, we also demand truthfulness from the opposition. You see, the opposition can easily throw out something, and for them, they are not duty bound as much as government. When these things after the election. The NUP leader of opposition, I think it was then Matthias Mpuga, released the list of 400 plus individuals who NUP presented as missing persons. Government presented a list of 150. I think it was Honorable J.J. Odong, I think, produced a list of 150, 180, thereabout.
Two different government people produced two different.
Yeah, but for all intents and purposes, NUP's list had about 400 individuals. Today, we are looking for 18, right, individuals. I would have loved for all of us to follow, right, the 400, because what government gave us is, where are these numbers? The discrepancy is rather very wide, right? So it would have been courteous of NUP leadership to say, of the 400 we were looking for, these have come back, these are in court in Makindye, these are missing, so that at least
but they've given you 18.
They have given us 18. What I'm saying is that the discrepancy, was there some truth being said, were there some lies, were there exaggerations, all that, so that at least when we go and demand for these 18, now that institutions like the judiciary are saying, you know what, some of these are questionable, we want to be sure that they are wrong, right? You have a question about the Chivalama. I listened to what the Prime Minister said then. there is an issue of which Chivalama were they meaning. Is it John Bosco? Is it the one who sold the party?
Of the 18, they followed it with a photograph.
Yeah. No, I agree. What I'm saying, the Prime Minister didn't follow it, didn't give us the photograph. She said...
Is there a Chivalama who is facing treason charges in any court?
No. So, what I'm saying is that her defense was, I was talking about the other one who sold the party and everything. So for me, yes, that was one of them. So for me, it's a question of we need to find these people. We have asked government has stated its position that we don't have these people. What NOP has said that they don't trust the judiciary, but however they are going to appeal the decision. I find that also a bit not,
Okay. Jack?
Yeah.
On the missing persons, 18 missing persons.
See, Oscar, the fact is I don't have enough data to even discuss missing persons. Why? And like Agatha said, this rationalization issue is what brings all this. What you will hear from them saying they have missing people. The government will also say they don't know about them. Then you have the Prime Minister saying something different from the minister. So it leaves us in that state that we are not sure what is happening and who is in charge and who is telling the truth. The same thing in coffee. So why don't you allow me tell you
to rationalize security agencies?
Yes, if there are people, and then you have Honorable Baram saying there is a list that he has that he will take to the president and they will release the people. Then so when it comes to that matter, it's hard for me to even have enough information to hold this discussion. Allow my sister here, Honorable Ofsek, tell you what they know about this.
But at least on rationalization, you agree that maybe they rationalize security agencies.
No, it's about systems. Yes. Let them rationalize them and serve a purpose.
Lydia,
yes.
Final word on gang, on missing persons, 18.
I spoke about the issue of missing persons here before, and I was able to clearly differentiate between the law and the politics. Where I sit, I think every Ugandan, it's clear in our laws and 1995 Constitution has amended that everybody should have their day in court and that the processes are there. So those ones, whether, doesn't matter which political line you stand in, the moment you are Ugandan, the law is blind, you should go and serve your day in court under due process. On the politics of it, for which my brother Katana and the others speak for, it's about your methods of work and strategy. If you are in opposition or you have a political party whose style may run against the status quo of the law, you will meet and you engage at that level. So if you're able to differentiate those two, then we'll be home and dry. Because the law is blind. Even in me, I can be caught up by the law. It doesn't matter whether I'm yellow. Though people assume that even in prisons, people wear yellow. The uniform is yellow, but does not matter. It has no color. So Oscar, for me, that's very clear. The moment we mix the two, then we get lost on either side of the divide. Whether you are the suspect or whether you are the one on the side of the bench, you should know that the law is leveled for everybody. That's all I can say.
Okay.
And final, of course, I'm the last one to say on the issue of the coffee sector. When I talked about what we did where I sit, is for us on the table of the agenda of the things we're doing, the coffee sector is not there. I mean, the UCDA is already off our desk. So when I say we did our part, it's not because I'm just being honest that this decision on this was taken. When I look at my file, UCDA is ticked, it's done. It's not because I am arrogant, it's because I'm just telling you that from the party decision-making level, that one is taken. The buy-in was extension and to improve the work. And that if about licensing, I think that government of Uganda, under the relevant agency ministry, they will retain the licenses of their people, because even BCU runs a UCDA license. So I cannot cut the tree to which I sit. As simple as that.
Thank you. So, Benjamin, this final minutes of Capital Gang. So, NUP is going to pursue looking for these missing 18?
Yeah, certainly. And I would like to encourage Ugandans not to leave that responsibility to NUP, because these are citizens, first of all, before they become NUP. Number two is that when you feed a monster, it will eventually eat you as well. You never know who will be the next victim of such unlawful conduct of the state. The reason why there are normally checks and balances, due process, is to protect citizens from the excesses of the state. Now, when you create a monster state with people that have selfish political interests running it, you can never know how far they will go with it. So it should not be left as a responsibility of NUP, but the responsibility of all citizens of Uganda to fight hard to make sure that every person has his or her day in court and be subjected to the due process.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, listeners of Capital Gang.
And also, all Ugandans grow coffee. You grow your coffee.
Yes.
Grow your coffee. Grow coffee. Just continue. In fact, put in more energy.
Yes.
No, you grow your coffee. It's a question of time. You reap big. Grow coffee.
When there's a better government, the coffee will be managed better.
Drink our coffee, not tea, not what.
Thank you, Isaac Kayonde, on your maiden visit to Gang. Honorable Lydia Wanyoto, thank you very much. Jacqueline of Jada Coffee, thank you so much. Agatha, thank you so much. Benjamin, NUP Treasurer, thank you so much. I am Oscar Semoya Msuke, and I shall see you next week.